that, yeah, just had a drink stream, and late last month, anyway, Netflix began streaming Reboot: The Guardian Code, a supposed follow-up to the cult animated TV series Reboot, which ran from 1994 to 2001. This Canadian-American co-production was originally the first CGI animated TV ever made, and which set the standard for everyone that followed. And I submit that even though the once groundbreaking CGI, even though the CGI may not be as quality of its time, it's still groundbreaking and sustained for everyone that followed. Since the original series ended on a cliffhanger, our anticipation was high for continuation, to say the least. I was interested when I first heard the news, but the results, I have to say, were not what I was hoping for, to say the least. And while reception to the initial trailers was relatively cold, and given how downvotes were wildly outnumbered upvotes by a considerable margin, and it can't always be, and sometimes the advertising is always indicative of what the actual work is like. However, in this case it was justified. Even though I don't plan on addressing the Wrinkle in Time remake because I wasn't a big fan of that book, I think in regards to the TV movie, there was this interview at Press, they said my feelings on the matter, where the interviewer asked Langle if the movie met her expectations. She responded succinctly, "Oh yes, expected to be bad, and it is." And I have to agree, this is the same reception here. As Bob once said in the original series, this is bad. This is very bad. In fact, this, if I may be blunt, it's actually personally one of the worst adaptations of any beloved anime series I have seen, bar none. Even though there's going to be a lot more anime reboots coming this year alone, it's going to be really hard to top it because this show is that bad to me. Since one big red flag I saw was that they weren't screening it for critical reviews until the day it began streaming, and also is currently sitting on a very lovely 3 out of 10 on IMDb. Definitely not the results they're hoping for, and I'm not entirely sure how the original creators feel about how they've heard the show, but if what Michael Heffron has done is an indication, then I honestly don't know exactly what he was thinking. Especially since this is a style adaptation fell out of favor a long time ago. And since it basically, the thought process amounted to, let's take this beloved animated series of built-in fanboy and base that absolutely nothing that makes us to begin with. It'll make millions. And yeah, so rather than mainframe, the setting for the most part is the fictional elementary and high school, and apparently, that's the only real thing I noticed that actually made any sense, given how the school's even very prominent in computer science, and despite the attempts to want to change the technology that I've adapted in this time frame, given how I'm recording this on a new device I just got a long ago, counted multiple mistakes in every single episode in terms of technology, from everything from how to handle hacking to something simple that the target audience actually has in their pockets most of the, or even watching it on nonsense. And rather than the original series concept, it seems to be something like analogous to a lot of original Power Rangers, well, it's that other ones noticed like Tron Legacy, the sister series of VR Troopers, as well as fellow cult anime series called Lyoko, all of which I have more interest in than this one. Because, suffice to say, as someone who really enjoyed the original show when I was younger and was actually watched that Twitch live stream in order to get ready for this, the inevitable, I can say this was really not done well at all, even though I can understand you had to make change or adaptations sometimes or update new something, but they had to be changes that make sense. To be honest, out of the realm of the internal logic they display with their decisions, it's almost as bad as something in, like, say, the 2013 Gem of the Holograms movie, which was an infamous flop that only lasted a couple weeks in theaters, and that, however, is a matter for another day, and much like, and on that note, I have to say that, hey, that another time, but, I mean, for other stuff we got planned, like, not adaptations of this nature, but it reminds me a lot of what they do with Dragon Ball Evolution, where that also was a failed attempt to reimagine a beloved animated TV series that ended up angering a lot of existing fans and not really trying to make new ones, since, in fact, I don't even know who the target audience is for this show. I mean, ostensibly, hey, it's meant for kids, but even then, I still submit, like I pointed out in my look at the 2017 Ben 10 and a while ago, that the It's for Kids excuse never really made it, hey, much sense to me. It still doesn't. I mean, I still submit it's not really a defense of the show. If anything, it's an indictment of it. No matter how absurd a concept may seem, it has to be believable to people watching it. Again, the difference between stuff like Avatar: Last Airbender and Batman the Animated Series, which defy the kids don't care mentality for me, and this show seemed to be part of that mindset. I should also point out that how that's not really impossible to reimagine an animated show with a new generation without making a total dump over what people liked about the original. Good example on Netflix is Voltron Jedi Defenders, which ended its fifth season. I'm also enjoying that, so I watched 10 episodes to make sure I understood what's going on. Or at the very least, I know what I was talking about, which is more than I can say for the writers or whoever doing, because the scripts make absolutely no sense, hence at all. Given how the other series often use programming in terms of even the character names to the settings, I think the way they approach the tech is borderline gobbledygook, by my knowledge of it. The mistakes are glaringly obvious to anyone who's actually tried coding, or even anyone who's used a computer in their lifetime. It reminded me of that episode of NCIS where the hacking was basically portrayed as like two people like playing a game of Minesweeper or something like that. And personally, what I was wondering about was who they're going to cast to voice Megabyte with Tony J's passing 2008, but that, like with the 2017 Death Note remake, is actually the least of the show's problems. Timothy E. Brubman did fine, I suppose, but apart from the returning cast members of the original show, the other human actors are just terrible. I don't have anything against them personally. Maybe just giving bad direction or they're new or whatever, but it's only helped that the new characters are really not that impressive. I barely even remember the names of the teen cast members because they're just so bland and not standing out at me. People who were still having a short about the new Saban, Power Rangers, and if they just watched this and then get back to me about that. In that sense, the only even names I really remember were Vera, which had me make plenty of jokes about things I actually like Pink Floyd and Firefly, and also our villain, the Sorcerer, played by Bob Fraser, who seems to be some mixture of a member of Anonymous and Emperor Palpatine with Star Wars Saga, given the deep voice and generic cloaked look in his low-budget dungeon. The editing, cinematography, are really hand set design pretty bad in the Earthbound segments. I had one of also seeing a Pontypool, which something else also enjoyed more, but almost like something like a sci-fi originals movie. But the CGI, even though there have been 24 years of advances in CGI since real series began, it actually somehow looks worse than it did before. Even though how they're working with new tech, with the original series, they were able to get a quality-looking show out every week, despite limitations ahead of time. I'm here, however, it looks like somewhere in between a low-grade PlayStation game. The characters move like action figures, and here's in the world of computer or whatever. And the background's like old screensavers. I mean, heck, the Final Fantasy VII and Metal Gear Solid games downloaded on my PS3 actually look more realistic than this, which is really saying something. I think of how I suppose that they're using the Unreal Engine shortcut, but it also kind of fails when not only the studios are streaming them, just unveiled a new build with some videos on their channel, but that's a matter of their time. And also, it just seems that clearly people had no idea what they were doing, and also doesn't really help that Heffron's actions about what they said and what he said did not help matters, to say the least. I mean, no matter what you're working on, one thing is clear, especially after things been going on, which started this month. When people are in charge of something they don't really understand and act like they are, the results can be disastrous. And the finale, trying to cater to fans of the show, but also kind of insulting them at the same time by depicting them as like YA basement dwellers, and that kind of depiction, this shouldn't be insulting on its own merit, given how he had his place depicted full of Reboot merchandise, and living at home. That kind of became unworkable a long time ago. I mean, not only is that kind of stuff common for a lot of people on YouTube these days and other streaming websites, it's not entirely accurate. For the record, this is actually my bedroom family out of here. Might be heading to a different one soon, but that's not important right now. Oh, and it does kind of address a cliffhanger from the original show, but just begs the question. Why isn't this a continuation or a straight reboot, or, I don't know, why not make an original TV show about teenagers going into a computer and not call it Reboot? I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense, man. And apart from everything else they did in the show, I think both of them are better to have someone who was 5 and not someone who was 26. I mean, rewatching this show again on Twitch, I'm probably going to watch again Chef After TV so far, it just blows my mind how much I liked it before. I mean, there's just seeing not only a new medium of animation coming to its own with how the same people that look at other shows enjoy like Beast Wars, who's having to deal with things like science fiction, action, fantasy, comedy, and speculative fiction all the time. On that kind of scale, it excited me. It's something I really enjoyed, and as a matter of fact, I still do. I mean, even though they streamed 10 episodes, or at least 20 planned, personally, it might be best to just scrap this whole thing and then start over. I just thought they would need a reboot after this reboot, if you'll pardon the parlance, and I just only hope that there are shows that are generally good that I enjoy watching, like Everything Sucks, that definitely just got the axe. I mean, at this point, you might as well just have to go back to the beginning and the end. So, I can definitely say that this show is not worth your time at all. In a sense, again, if you want a good piece of animation on Netflix, that respects the source material and its audience, no matter who they're catering to, by all means, go watch Voltron Jet Defenders, because that show not only understood the significance of its source material, but also managed to unspanned where that wasn't, but in a manner that managed to appeal to both young and old fans, in a sense. And again, I think Bob said it best in the original series. This is bad. This is really bad. And yeah. Anyway, sorry about how I come off in this video. A lot's been going on besides the show lately, and I can't address all of it and basically, unless I personally have something to add, I really can't. But in this case, I can definitely say that my skepticism of many others was just totally justified. I mean, since absolutely nothing about the show worked to me, I mean, virtually every aspect, from the acting to the writing to the animation, was just downright terrible. I mean, at least that Power Rangers reboot they had last year at least tried to do something source material in addition to being an interesting action movie on its own. This was almost like iCreature's level of saying they just didn't care. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now. Tell me what you think about this in the comments, and I will talk to y'all later.